Ready?
Yeah.
So, Rox, question for you. What's the worst passenger that you've ever sat next to?
Mm. So like I said, I'm a chatterbox. So I think the worst passenger was one where I couldn't communicate with, because it was just me then. I couldn't talk to them, and we tried, but it just the language wasn't there, so we couldn't flow.
That's interesting, actually, because that reminds me of my worst passenger. It was someone trying to speak to me constantly throughout the flights. I don't know if it was actually you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Cabin Chronicles, a podcast from Anuvu where we discuss behind the scenes of in-flight entertainment and connectivity. I'm Kosh Hussain, VP of Ops and Tech here at Anuvu. My home airport is London, and I'm joined here by Rox from LILT.
Hi, Kosh. Thanks for the invitation. Yep, my name's Roxana. I'm an enterprise account executive at LILT, and my home airport is Edinburgh in Scotland.
This week's episode, we are in grey London, where we're going to be talking all things AI. So, Rox, for those that don't know LILT and what they do, could you explain in simple terms what you are doing there?
So, really simple terms, we make anything multilingual, all content types. We support businesses, enterprises, public sector to create multilingual content. And we do that with AI, technology, but also human experts, human translators in the mix.
Have we solved everything translation related with using AI?
No, we get that question a lot. Well, what are you guys doing? Has an AI solved everything? But no, there's huge language gaps across the board in enterprises in the industry, but also a huge reliance still on human only, processes. And it's strange to me in the world of AI that that's still the case. It tends to be often because there's a lot of smoke and mirrors now, and it's hard to get to the right solution. So there's reluctance, and then the fallback on human-only services when there's so many better options to try and solve that. From your perspective, is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, from a translation point of view and a multilingual view from the airlines and our customers, it's more important than ever. With airlines having different demographics, different routes, it's not only good enough to have, key languages, let's say, available for the passengers. We need languages and text from all different types of regions where airlines are flying to and have passengers from. So what we've been tasked to by the airlines is essentially to make sure GUIs and content is available in multiple languages, not only maybe those key ones.
So Kosh, how has your own travel shaped how you think about accessibility?
Yeah, so I mean, I travel a lot for work and to different places. For myself, it's nice to see other passengers really selecting content and selecting languages and subtitles where they feel comfortable being able to view the content. So just recently, actually, I was flying to LA and I can see someone in front of me, which I always do. I'm always checking other people's screens. I can see someone selecting specifically the closed caption category. So obviously making sure that they whatever movie they're about to pick has closed captions available. And it was just nice to see them be able to have a varied amount of content available to them where they can watch in their own comfort with those subtitles available to them. So always making always flying and seeing other people relaxed and being able to select the content with the accessibility needs that they have is always nice to see when traveling. How about yourself?
Yeah. Similarly, I always look at what other people are selecting in terms of their screens, but even more so when I travel with family or friends. We love traveling around the world, and some of my family were Romanian. They don't have English skills, so it's hard sometimes to fully enjoy that experience on a flight when there is no available language solution. So I guess my views were, never really expanded until I traveled with them and seen that this can be a challenge because, I was lucky enough to know English and know a few of the key languages and always could switch between them. But for somebody that doesn't have those language skills, it can be a blocker. It can change completely the way in which they are experiencing the travel. But it goes the other way around as well. And we've traveled with friends who only speak English, and I wanted to share some movies that I enjoy, from Romania that I watched in that language. And again, they weren't available for me to go ahead and share those. So I guess it goes both ways, but there's clear language gaps, and hopefully, we're starting to see some of those being reduced in this year.
One thing I've seen in terms of language blockers maybe, or where language has been important, is not just on the content side, it's actually on the GUI itself. So when you sit down, some airlines probably don't have it clear and obvious that you can select multiple languages on the GUI interface, for example. Whereas I think some of our customers here, and even now we've got some GUIs available in 15, 16, 17 languages. So really expanding and making sure that as soon as a passenger sits down, they're able to select their native tongue and really able to explore the GUI as they need to.
I've witnessed that. I've been a translator for many, of my family. I've had to navigate the GUI in English and then, maybe put the map on or something whilst they read their book if there wasn't content available. So having at least that part in all the different languages, or in as many as languages as possible, I think is key. So it's fantastic to hear that you guys are tackling that. So, Kosh, can multilingual IFE impact NPS or CSAT scores?
Yes. We at Nuvu, we get a lot of data from our airlines regarding CSAT and NPS. Obviously, on the CSAT, where it can be a lot more specific in what passengers are talking about, and language availability is a big one. I think the days of having, for example, Japanese subtitles against a Hollywood movie was few and far between. Now, with the Japanese passengers expect there to be Japanese subs available against Hollywood content, as well as their own Japanese content available on the GUI. So yes, having a couple of titles available in Japanese or Korean or whichever language. I mean, I think there's a bigger demand now, especially when passengers are essentially comparing in the cabin experience compared to on the ground. When you're on Netflix and Amazon Prime, you get a whole deluge of selections of your language, and I think that's what passengers are expecting when they fly. So we definitely see that reflected in CSAT scores, especially the ones that we get here at Nuvu from our customers.
Good. And it's nice to be able to read some of those answers and see that impact as you're delivering more language or you're expanding the offering.
Yeah, we've made strategic decisions with airlines actually, where we've reviewed CSAT scores along with the airline themselves and said, okay, here are the different languages we need on these specific routes. We need to increase increase Japanese. We need to increase Korean. We need to increase Arabic, for example, because these routes have specific demographics on. So we've actually made content decisions and curation decisions when it comes to language creation and availability based on these CSAT scores, and we've seen them improve. So very important to the airlines, because ultimately it's important to the passengers.
Okay, are passengers more likely to choose airlines they feel seen by culturally?
I mean, for my personal opinion, yes. That's just a personal opinion that I have, just working in the industry so long. I mean, specifically, it's hard to tell in terms of from a data point of view, but with passengers being able to select from different airlines, there's lots of airlines going to different ports and different areas now. They are able to pick their airline that they're after, and I think passengers will select airlines where they do feel like they're being heard in terms of language. So as I mentioned before, the GUI being in their language, content being available in their language, being localized in their language is important. Passengers want to feel comfortable and relaxed on a flight, not having to kind of go through the screens and guess where content is or where things are if it's not available in the language that they're comfortable with. So I believe so. I think passengers will ultimately go back to those airlines where they feel comfortable with and believe that the airline are really catering towards their needs. Something that we're continuing to work with the airlines on.
And is that as well for the first flight, you think, or just as a returning customer even more?
As a returning customer, I would say passengers are loyal.
Yeah.
In my opinion, they like to stay with a specific airline. I think especially if it's a national airline, there's a certain amount of pride going with your national airline. But ultimately, as I said, airlines where they are providing those needs in terms of localization and translations and native tongue is important. So if you're a Korean passenger, for example, and you have an airline providing Korean languages and Korean GUIs, you're more likely maybe to select those airlines if your local airline seats aren't available, for example. So absolutely, I think it is something that airline passengers like to look at when they're selecting their airlines. So Rox, something that you mentioned earlier about content being available in Romanian. Do you think generally content and GUIs are overlooking maybe lesser known languages such as Romanian where they're not as widely available compared to some others?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's still the case. Less so than in the past. We're seeing a shift, but there's still huge language gaps in the industry, and certainly some kind of languages that have less content and a kind of less maybe engagement from passengers or customers are overlooked. And it's crazy because there's so much content that's not in English out there in the world that you don't have access to. So it's not just, the well-known content in English or in the key languages that gets translated, but it's the reverse as well. And a lot of what we do, and why I'm so passionate about what I do, is that, with every project, with every engagement with a Nuvu, we're able to make content multilingual. We're able to share information with people that before didn't have access to this information because of the language barrier.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you're saying there. We've here at Nuvu, we've definitely seen a bigger demand from our airline customers for those lesser or niche languages where they're not as widely available. I think traditionally cost has played a big impact in terms of requesting those languages and also time. As you know, we have a very tight schedule to work with, and being able to receive assets in time is a big thing when airlines are making decisions on languages. Have you seen a bigger increase in demand maybe from outside of IFE? Because I think within IFE we've seen a bigger demand for these types of languages.
Yeah, certainly. It's not just that, it's marketing, it's brand, it's health and safety, things like that we're seeing customers becoming more aware of the impact that language has on their teams. And it just makes me happy, when we've got Faroese or a different language that I wouldn't maybe expect initially. It just makes us all happy to be able to share that in so many different people.
I'm glad you put out Faroese. That's a very, very specific language you've got there. No, it's good. I like that. Okay, so our next section is sit or switch, where I'm going to ask you some quick scenarios that will happen in the cabin, and you want to sit or switch your seat. Okay, so first one is someone who claps when the plane takes off. Sit or switch?
Been on a flight where this has happened so many times. Sit. I probably roll my eyes, but I sit down. Don't switch.
I would switch actually.
Okay.
Because it means they're going to be clapping when the plane lands. I don't want to be there for that. So,
but you'll hear the clap anyway, even if you're a bit.
Then I can just see who's doing it and look at them. Okay, so next one is someone who brings on some smelly food onto the flight. Sit or switch?
I'll sit. I'd feel bad.
You'd sit?
Yeah.
You're too nice. I would switch.
Yeah.
I would switch again.
Wow.
I've been on a flight actually where someone brought on fish, like a curried fish, and that was a. I mean, I couldn't actually move, obviously, but That was tough. That was tough to be on for like an hour.
Okay, I think maybe it does depend on the food, but for
How smelly it is.
how smelly it is or what it is. But I just think it'll be over soon. And there's always risk. I assess the risk adverse. So it could be that I sit next to somebody.
Even worse.
With
even smellier food. A big risk to take, actually. I don't think this is done too bad. Someone doing a full skincare routine mid-flight. I would sit for that. I've got no issue with that.
I'd sit for that as well. Would you engage with them as well to ask about the routine?
I would ask for a mask if they had one. If they had a spare one, I'd be like, yeah, please give me one. I don't think there's any issue. Depends how much, what's going on. I think if it's a mask and moisturizing, you should always moisturize on a flight, not to be dehydrated. So yeah, we're both saying.
I'd sit as well. I would probably engage in conversation and on a skin routine and try and see. Who knows? Maybe some good advice there.
Yeah, it depends. Also, it depends. Warren Smith is on those UV. You've seen those red masks. That'd be quite scary to wake up to if someone's in a full red glowing mask, UV light or whatever it is. That'd be worrying.
You can see the difference though before and after the mask. If nothing else.
Actually, yeah, you can advise them. You look better now. Actually. Okay, so a passenger who watches an emotional movie and is crying throughout.
I just cry with them, like probably just.
Cry. So you'd sit.
I'd sit.
I would. I'm kind of switch, but also sit. Maybe it depends on how emotional they are, how much they're crying. If they're hysterical, then.
I'm quite an emotional person. I think the only reason I'd switch is if I don't. Now, if I would have to watch the movie or would be into that scene as well, and we'd both be crying, it'd be disastrous. But yeah, I'd switch. I'd sit. I wouldn't switch for that reason. What?
That would be a worrying seat for me if I've got two people crying either side of me watching.
Be in the middle.
Yeah, being in the middle and watching while I'm watching and crying. Oh god, this is actually me. A passenger who watches the moving map the entire flight and gives you updates. I'm sitting because I don't give random people updates, but I do watch moving map as I go.
Okay, I'll still sit. I realize I wouldn't switch for a lot of things, but
you're too nice. You wouldn't switch for anybody.
I think I'd sit because I do like to chat. I'm a chatterbox, so yeah, I'd probably love that they engage in conversation and give me updates without me actually needing to have that on screen.
So if we're flying next time together and you're sleeping and I wake you up to say, look, we're at altitude now, that'll be fine.
Yeah, just don't interrupt if I'm crying at an emotional movie. Okay.
Whilst you're crying, interrupt to say, we're 4 hours away.
I've only once moved seat. Only once I've asked to move seat. Only once in my life. They smelled. Can't have that on there, but they smelled. I was like, I can't do this. I will have to move.
So, Rox, just referring back to LILT, can you tell me one thing that surprised you in your industry this year?
Yeah, I guess it's the speed of the shift. So, post AI, post ChatGPT, there's been, a bit of a boom in terms of interest and focus on AI. And there's been a lot of experimentation, businesses looking at how and where AI could help. But the speed of the shift has been surprising for me to see so many businesses really kind of embracing the potential. I guess I expected there to be a change, but maybe not quite that quick. But what about you, Kosh? What do you see? Because you're dealing with content and changes every day.
Yeah, I mean, especially in our industry, the volume of content has gone through the roof. Systems are getting bigger, so capacity is getting bigger, which means airlines can put, terabytes of content on board. So again, the speed that's happened has been a little bit surprising. Something that we're dealing with and managing here at Nuvu. At the same time, the want and need to have AI to support those changes has been growing. It's something that we're doing in multiple departments. Compliance screening is something that we're about to, or we have been working on the AI side, and we're about to launch with a new vendor very soon. Images as well, image selection. So we're using AI to make sure talent isn't being cropped out of different images, and we're using the best image possible, etc. And obviously on the translation and localization side, with the bigger demand in content, there's a bigger demand for localization services. Um, so yeah, the demand and the growth has been very quick, I want to say, and that's something that we're a little bit surprising, but a positive surprise, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think AI is a speed tool or a creative tool?
Um, I mean, in this industry, what we're looking at Nuvu is using AI, as you know, to not replace people. That's not what we're trying to do here at Nuvu. It's more to do with an aid to the team, allowing the team to concentrate on quality and curation and selection rather than anything else. So it's not about we're not using AI to create scenes or do anything editorial with it. It's machine learning in terms of only being able to do what we're asking it to do with the help of our vendors. So yeah, we see it as a tool to gain efficiencies in the supply chain, and again allow the team members to concentrate on quality rather than create anything, which is not something that we as a business are doing. How about yourself?
It's interesting because we use it in our industry, but in a very similar way. And I agree, AI isn't creative, but we use AI to help unlock human creativity. And if done right, it can make a huge impact on content translation process. And it almost removes that repetitive tasks and the repetitive content that translators maybe don't enjoy doing over and over again. But it allows them then to focus on the language flow, the style, really that creative part, brand alignment, things that you would tend, sometimes it takes back foot because you don't have the time because you have to continue to translate. Whilst with AI, you're able to really become very focused on that. So I would say similarly, it's an aid, it's an enhancement to the process with humans leading.
Yeah. So, Rox, do you think AI is helping with staff happiness and retention in terms of, they're not having to do monotonous tasks in terms of manual things that they need to do day to day, where they can use AI to kind of automate those processes and tasks?
Yeah, I think definitely you're still doing things, you're still working in terms of your job, but you're doing higher value tasks rather than the lower ones that are repetitive. So yeah, you're a bit more happy. And we're seeing that with translators as well and linguists and how we're engaging with that process. And a lot of developments, even in agentic workflows that we've launched a lot last year. And it is the year of the AI agents. And that's what they're there to do, to make sure the humans are happier and they're doing the key things that they're good at. And a lot of times it even goes as far as we're seeing organizations rely only on their teams to do the translation versus now with AI or with a process that's robust, those teams can actually do what, they're trained to do and what they wanted to do versus having all these extra tasks given to them because there's no other way of solving it.
Yeah, we have an interesting one recently where we've had an airline be very specific about the content that they want on board, or at least be able to select the content that they want on board. So it was kind of movies from the 90s that have a over 7.5 IMDb rating that doesn't that has this specific language available, and if it doesn't, we'll create the languages or create the subtitles. And instead of days or weeks of research for our teams, they'll quickly be able to use kind of agentic AI tools where we can pull those reports very quickly. Then the focus becomes the selection, the curation with the IFE teams at the airline rather than the mundane kind of research that's required. So we've definitely seen gains there where our team members are able to concentrate on the quality and curation, as I mentioned, with our airline customers.
And I think that's a testament to what you're doing, right? Because it's having the right partner for AI. And it's back to that initial point of sometimes smoke and mirrors, where if you've not got the right partner that can flex or that can adapt or that can continue to innovate, you might not be able to solve these in the right way. And then, the feedback is AI just hasn't solved it. We have to go back to our human only manual task. Whilst the answer is probably you've not implemented the right solution or partnered with the right business to help you along the way?
So I speak with a lot of airlines, a lot of content owners and studios, and one thing we always hear about when it comes to AI is AI replacing humans, or what are the next steps in terms of AI eventually taking over what the human tasks are? What's your thoughts on this? What's happening at LILT specifically?
We always say that the humans are in the driver's seat. I don't think AI will replace humans. I think the processes are changing. But where it comes to high stakes, high relevance content, you need a human as part of that process. And this can be, brand alignment. It can be regulatory, legal documents. You need a human to validate that, because the impact of getting that wrong is huge. And it's a question of assessing that impact and assessing how quickly you could be able to change or amend that. It could be, in some cases, some content can go through AI only for various things, testing, etc. But for a lot of content, such as the IFE content that you guys are looking at, that's probably not the case. You'll want a human as part of the process.
Yeah, I think one of the key decisions we made when partnering with LILT was that it's not purely AI. You have the same viewpoint as us, where it's a human element is still needed for the QA and that final kind of stamp of approval. Something where when we speak with our customers, we make sure that's clear, that it's not a hands-off approach where we're just leaving it to AI to do certain tasks. We still have a human element that does those final checks, and we know that LILT is keen on that, and that's something that you're doing actively. So yeah, another reason why we've partnered with LILT when it comes to translations and localization services.
Yeah. Now, it's been good to have that alignment on both the human element, and I think you're also very data driven, like you were explaining earlier, how you take the data and you partner with the airlines and you look at the results for that in NPS and take decisions based on that, really being strategic and using that data. And a lot of decisions around content and humans and language and where AI can help is using the right data. So again, our partnership was fantastic because we could provide you with that data, from the quality of an engine to, where you can maybe flex. So yeah, it's very interesting to have that synergy. And I would think that's also an important element. I would always advise anybody that has a lot of content and needs translation to look into is whatever your partnerships are looking like, having the right data, providing you with the right data to make those strategic decisions, rather than just deciding an approach at the start and then going with it. It's continue to innovate, continue to update your strategy. Okay, Kosh, this is the fun part. This is Carry On Confessions. So Kosh, I'm going to ask you a few questions. First one, movies, series, or documentary on board?
Movie for me. I like watching classic movies, not anything new, but something classic that I can put on the screen. Having said that, though, I recently flew and I watched The Studio from Apple TV. Really funny. I watched episodes 1 to 10 on the flight, which I wouldn't normally do. So that's probably a good sign. But yeah, movies for me. But I've watched TV before. How about yourself?
Movies as well. I'd go for new ones because I don't have a lot of time at home to watch a movie start to end. So it would be like a treat, like an experience. But I guess sometimes it is a documentary if there's something I know I want to watch, and I kind of plan it in advance. So it's like something to look forward to. Do you ever do that? Plan in advance what you'd watch or think about that? Or is it like in the moment, a decision then?
No, I like to plan ahead and see what's on board for sure. So I'm going on airline sites to see what's available and what isn't. I know we've both got newborn kids, kind of, so it's probably a nice chance to watch something you want to watch rather than kids movies or lullabies or whatever else.
Exactly. Things have changed in the last year and a half for me, for sure. I maybe would have done CDs before, but I just find now it is that moment to relax and the ability to concentrate on something for more than 10 minutes without being interrupted.
Yeah, I can't watch a Coco Melon movie anymore. I need to see something else. So that's good.
Okay, Kosh, would you let AI pick what you're watching on a flight?
Yeah, I mean, at least recommend for sure. I mean, being forced to watch would be an interesting, an interesting angle. But yeah, being able using AI to kind of give you a playlist of what what it thinks would be good for you to watch based on kind of viewing habits, etc. I think that'd be quite cool and quite interesting. How about yourself? Would that be something that you'd be open to?
I agree. I think it'd be interesting to not have to make that decision and enjoy it for a little bit and then decide if you continue or not. Another fun one. You travel a lot for work, but if AI would have to send you on a personal trip, where do you think what destination would they pick?
Based on receipts and stuff. I mean, they'll probably send me. I'm gonna say Vegas, but then no one will ever hear or see from me again. So yeah, I think Vegas. Will probably tell me to go to.
Yeah.
So what about you? If AI got to choose somewhere that you would go based on your personal data?
I think somewhere in Scotland, actually, because I feel like I've been there for more than 10 years, but I've not fully explored it. And I always look up different locations or read about places I want to go to, and I just never pick it for myself. So I hope it would help me make that decision.
Cool.
Okay, last one. Dubbed film or original with subtitles?
My preference is always original with subtitles. Dubbed is an interesting one because I feel like there's obviously like the German Tom Cruise or the Spanish Brad Pitt, but no, original with subs. I want to hear the actors' voices and their tones and have the subtitles underneath to help me.
Yeah, I think we're aligned as well. I'm a language nerd. I want to hear the language. I want to hear the original. I will say I do choose dubbed if I want to fall asleep and like close my eyes, and then I do that.
Yeah.
But quite rarely because I can't sleep on a flight. So yeah, original with subtitles every single time for me as well.
Okay, Rox, so in the before we land section of the podcast, so I have a couple of questions here. What are your hopes for the future when it comes to AI and travel?
I think it would be, well, definitely more languages, having language accessibility and exploring how you can engage customers and passengers that don't speak some of these main languages. I think, seeing how quickly things are moving in the industry and some of the great things we're doing with global businesses. I just hope, IFE doesn't get left behind in terms of all the innovation that is available right now. Human-led, human experts working in a better way, in a quicker way, being able to expand languages, deliver quicker, deliver more content. We're doing some really interesting, fantastic things in the industry. Again, I'm a language geek and I really enjoy seeing the impact on different businesses. And I hope that, there's less reluctancy in adopting some of these strategies by IFE teams globally. Yeah,
no, I completely agree with that point. One thing we hear from the airlines and ultimately the passengers is they want a similar experience in the air than they have on the ground. One of the things we specifically hear about is language availability on streaming services. If you go onto I won't name them. If you go onto one of the biggest streaming services on a movie, you'll probably see multiple languages available, in dubs and subs. When you go on the air, they want to see the same language availability and broader language options. So I think absolutely as an industry, we need to make sure we keep up with what's going on the ground and ultimately be able to deliver more accessibility for the passengers in our airlines. So Rox, where are you heading next?
Dublin. Our friends had a new family member recently joining them, and I'm looking forward to meeting the baby. What about you? I know you traveled in today, and
Yeah.
you're heading out soon as well?
Yeah. So depending on when this podcast is aired, I'm going to say LA for now. Is generic enough. So yeah, LA is where I'm going to be going next. So that wraps up our episode on AI and localization. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you found that interesting. Thank you again from Rox from LILT for joining us today.
Thanks for inviting me.
And look out for the next episode of Cabin Chronicles.
Bye. I don't remember the trip.
We can't say I don't remember the entire trip of Vegas. That's not going to be good.